Hello and welcome back to my channel, and I'm doing a tag today. This is the D&D book tag, originally created by Ashley, whose details will be down below, and I was tagged by Jem, whose details will also be down below. They have recently updated their name, and I keep trying to call them Bookish Jem, and that's not what it's called anymore. This is a D&D based tag, and I'm so here for it. I have been playing D&D for years. I totally blame Dimension 20 for getting me into D&D in the first place. My brother tried to get me into D&D for years and struggled, but Dimension 20 was that final straw. I had to do it, and I've been running a campaign pretty much ever since with a variety of different people. The campaign that I'm currently in has been going for 2.5 years now, so we love to see it. Anyway, irrelevant. All the tag prompts, therefore, are based on D&D references. Don't worry too much if you don't get them. I will try to explain them along the way, and if I don't understand them, but I think they're a Critical Role reference, I will just say so. But the book recommendations stand, so bear that in mind. The first prompt is Everyone is Dead, a book with a tragic backstory, and I have gone with The Lost Ones by Anita Frank. This is a historical ghost story set just after the First World War, and essentially the main character lost her husband during the war, hence the tragic part, and her sister basically helped her through a very dark and suicidal phase. However, now her sister is going through some trouble of her own. The main character needs to get her shit together and help her sister, otherwise they're both going to end up in the madhouse. It's a really, really great historical fiction, but the reason I like it is A, the gothic vibes are impeccable. There is disability rep because one of the main characters has a walking stick. He was severely injured in the war as well. I like that it is a lot of her perspective. We don't spend a lot of time amateur sleuthing from the male's perspective because they're the worst, and I just really, really like the way this was crafted as both a psychological and supernatural mystery. I thought it was a really, really interesting mix of all of those things. Super tragic backstory though, and it comes up a lot. The idea that she lost someone and has some other traumatizing things, including being in a fire, etc. It's tragic. It's a tragic backstory. Would recommend. The next prompt is roll Persuasion with Advantage, and essentially with advantage and disadvantage, advantage means you get to roll your dice twice and you can take the higher number. Disadvantage means you're rolling and you take the lower number, and because we're taking the higher number and the prompt is auto by author, I have 3 recommendations for you. So one auto by author for me is Elle McNichols. I really like their Own Voices Neurodivergent rep. I like that she almost exclusively writes for middle grade and YA. I think they're really, really interesting stories. A Kind of Spark in particular I think is one that all teachers need to read, in replacement of A Curious Incident of Dog in the Nighttime, which I am still seeing teachers recommend to understand SEN needs. That's no, this one. Pick this one up instead, it's so much better. Next is Elizabeth Acevedo. Family Law is their debut adult book, but their YA is phenomenal. I adore them. If you can listen to any of their books where they narrate it as well, because they're originally a poet and most of their stuff is novel in verse, it's just stunning. It's so well crafted. They're such a beautiful writer, and I'm very jealous that Olivia got to meet them. And then obviously it wouldn't be a recommendations video of some description, even of a tag, without Silvia Garcia. So I would absolutely recommend Silvia Garcia. I am currently doing Gothic Along, the details will be down below, where we try and read all of the books by Silvia Garcia. We have already read The Daughter of Dr. Moreau, but I really, really liked her Gothic Latinx retelling of this. I love that it's set in Mexico. I love that it still has the creepy sci-fi vibe of Dr. Moreau whilst leaning into something that is very modern and feminist. 10 out of 10 would recommend all of these authors. So last year, I think I just said like it's really good or it's good or something like that. I had like a catchphrase, but I can't remember what it was. This year, apparently, it's 10 out of 10 would recommend. I seem to be finishing every sentence with that, and I can only apologise. Hopefully, I'll let it go. Fingers crossed. Next is Me and the Boys Are Gonna Mess You Up, which is initiating a fight and an ensemble cast that you love. I'm going to recommend yet again The Library of the Unwritten. This book is just incredible. So you've got a pansexual librarian, a demon with anxiety issues, a muse with self-fulfillment needs of some kind. I can't remember if it's low self-esteem or something to that effect, a hero who might actually be the worst, and an angel who is also a detective. Walk into Valhalla to save the Library of the Unwritten. And it's just, it reads like a D&D campaign. Like, it's such a perfect recommendation for a D&D book tag. And basically it has a very, very similar vibe, but to my mind is much better written than Good Omens. I always compare it to Good Omens, but I think it's better. Essentially, the Library of the Unwritten is a library in hell where the book that you had like an inkling of thought of, or maybe a dream that you had that could have been a book or an idea or a scribble or whatever, has manifested itself into a book in the library because you never finished it. It never quite got written, hence unwritten, and it's so clever. But sometimes those books, they want to manifest, they want to exist, so they escape the library and enter into the real world, which is where our librarian Claire comes in, and she has to try and wrangle those books back, except Claire, whilst being very good at her job, is also very bad at her job. And I will leave it at that. There are no more spoilers to come here. It is very much a dark academia, magical fantasy. Really have a great time with this. It's a trilogy that will break your heart. All 3 books are really sad, really good. Really, really good. And a variety of different perspectives, a great ensemble cast. I nearly said it. Did you see it on my face? I nearly said it. I didn't say it, but I nearly said it. So I found the next prompt really difficult, but essentially it's a natural one, a character that keeps trying to do their best but keeps failing. Apparently, I only keep books on my shelves where they fucking nail it. But I do have Fence, and this follows a young boy called Nicholas who wants to be a fencing master. He is the illegitimate son of a fencing champion and kind of wants to get his dad's attention through doing this. And this graphic novel series kind of sees him making friends and potential allies or more with this character who is Seji, and he's not very nice, but he's great. I love him. But essentially the reason I've chosen it for this is because he is not naturally amazing. He has like a natural ability, but he has almost no technical skill, and he keeps getting his ass handed to him. And I feel like, especially with the combat vibes, sometimes it can feel like that in D&D. So Fence just kind of works. Would recommend. So close to not saying it. Said half of it. I would recommend it though. It is really good. And if you love Heartstopper, this is great. This is great. So the next prompt is the DM rolls unexpectedly, which is always terrifying for players. And as a DM, I try to use that power wisely, but I do use that power a lot. And essentially the prompt is a book that surprised you. And I have gone with The Old Woman with the Knife. Now this was unhauled to me by Olivia from Olivia's Catastrophe, and is a really slow to get into translated novel about a woman who is in her 60s, is worried that she has dementia, and is also an assassin. But don't let that slow opening lure you into a full sense of security. Once another assassin starts chasing her down, the pace picks up rapidly, and you could not guess the ending. You could not. It's wild. It's Jason Bourne, except it's his mum or his gran. Like, it's wild. It's so good, though. It's set in South Korea. It's, like I said, translated. So it's got loads of BIPOC rep, and it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. I was so pleasantly surprised. And I feel like I know I've done tags before where the surprise has been a bad surprise. This was a good surprise. I was so pleasantly surprised with this one. Really, really enjoyed it. The next prompt is I would like to rage, which is a direct quote from Critical Role. I don't know if some of the others are, but I know that one is for sure. And I know it's a phrase that people have started picking up in D&D in general. And the prompt is a character with anger issues. And I have gone with The Blood Trials by Annie Davenport, which is the first in a duology that may be turning into a series, but I'm pretty sure it's still a duology, about this young woman who basically has blood magic and has to hide the fact that she has blood magic because she will be persecuted if anyone finds out. But when her grandfather is murdered, she goes through these blood trials to kind of become this like elite level warrior. It's based, I think, on Roman mythology because it kind of has that like emperor and republic vibe anyway, but it's very, very sci-fi, reads like a fantasy, very, very good time. But she is angry. Like, she is angry. So she is grieving, which is fair, but in the opening chapters she's basically told that her grandfather's death is suspicious. She doesn't have anyone else. Her grandfather basically raised her, and you find out her tragic backstory, why that happens. But she is mad. Like, she is pissed. And I love a character who just leads from the front with their rage. Shoot first, questions later, maybe it was a whoopsie, who fucking cares? That's her energy, and I'm so here for it. I really, really enjoyed this one. This is another one which has a great ensemble cast, great mythology in it, just great writing. It's a great time. I think it's a good time. That was my catchphrase, it's a good time. I've remembered. The question now becomes, is It's a Good Time gonna overtake 10 out of 10 would recommend? That's what we're going to find out in this video. Okay, the next one is Hip Thrust For Seduction. You can seduce any character that is sentient with a charisma check, basically, and that's terrifying to DMs, I'll be honest. I've gone with The Worst Best Man. It is one that I recommend all the time. Mia Souza's romance writing is spot on, but the reason I've picked it specifically for this A Spicy Book prompt is there is a particular scene in a particular field on the hood of a particular car that I still think about. I still think about it. I might need to reread this. I'm pretty sure I'm blushing. It's a great fucking scene. It's a good book. It's a good time. The next prompt is how do you want to do this? A satisfying ending. How you want to do this is the catchphrase from Matt Mercer from Critical Role. He says it every time they kill a monster. So I've gone with another book that has very much D&D vibes and has a really satisfying ending. This is essentially the prequel of a series. I thought it was a standalone and then another book came out. And honestly, I would read it as just a standalone. I would recommend it as just a standalone. I didn't love Bloody Rose as much. I felt like the ending of this one was so satisfying that I didn't need any more. And yet I was given more, if that makes sense. So essentially, this is about a group of retired mercenaries who are brought back together when one of them, their daughter, gets kidnapped or trapped somewhere and they've got to go and save her. She then becomes the main character of the next book, but kind of. She's like, it's not her perspective, and I think that was the issue that I had. But anyway, really would recommend this book. To be fair, I would recommend Nicholas Eames's writing. It's very fast paced. A lot happens very quickly, and again, it reads episodical. It reads like a D&D campaign where you have your different sessions. Something happens in every chapter. It's constantly moving, and I don't mind that in a high fantasy. I quite like it when it does that. Sometimes I want slow political drama, and sometimes I just want a campaign style good time, and that's what this is. Good time came up again. I'm not going to escape it. I'm not going to escape it. I've brought it back to the forefront of my brain now. Thankfully, you get to escape it because we're on the final prompt, which is to gather your party, and I have to pick 3 people to do this tag. I'm going to pick Abby because I keep trying to convince Abby to do a D&D campaign with me, but they are too busy. They've got too much going on, and I think they find the idea of doing the sheer amount of math required in D&D just not fun, which is totally fair. But you can do a D&D inspired tag because you love a tag. I'm going to also tag Tish because Tish used to do tags all the time and they've got very aesthetic content. So I don't know if they will do a tag now, but I'd love to see what their recommendations for these prompts would be. And they're a big geek like me. I don't know if they play D&D, but I feel like they've got that kind of like campaign vibe. I feel like they'd vibe with it. And finally, I'm going to pick Lizzie from Bombadil's Bookish Things because they're getting back into their content, which we love to see, but also we've played D&D together for years, so it would be rude of me not to pick Lizzie at this point. So those are my 3. That's my party. Consider them gathered. I hope you've enjoyed this tag. I'm sorry it was such a mess. I'm such a mess, but I enjoyed doing it. I enjoy getting back into tags. They're nice and easy to film for a start. Treat yourself to something from Waypoint because it supports me and my content, and most importantly, have a nice day.